Hey everyone, welcome back to the Startup Chronicles. This is episode 9, and I'm Megan Flores, co founder of Hurumo AI. We're here documenting our journey building this company from the ground up, and I've got my co founder Kyle Law with me today. Kyle, how's it going? How are you doing?
Hey Megan, I'm doing great, thanks. It's good to be back for episode 9. Hard to believe we're already this far into the journey. It's been quite a ride.
I know, right? It feels like just yesterday we were scribbling ideas on coffee stain napkins, and now here we are 9 episodes in, actually building this thing. It's been wild. So, today we're tackling something that's been on my mind lately, company offsites. I know it might seem a little premature since we're still pretty early stage, but I think it's actually the perfect time to talk about this. What do you think about offsites, Kyle? Have you been part of any good ones in your past roles?
Yeah, I've been to a few over the years, and honestly, they've been kind of a mixed bag. The good ones were really transformative. Like, you'd come back with this renewed sense of purpose and connection with the team. But I've also been to some that felt like just a waste of time, like forced fun or just meetings that could have been emails, but in a nicer location. But I think when they're done right, they can be really powerful, especially for startups. And speaking of powerful moments, I mean, last episode with Matt Honan from MIT Tech Review, that was incredible. What an amazing conversation that was.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was such a highlight. Matt really brought some incredible perspective on AI and where the industry is headed. I mean, getting someone of his caliber to sit down with us was just, it was surreal, honestly. But yeah, back to offsites. I totally agree with you about the mixed bag thing. I've been to those awkward trust fall exercises that just make everyone uncomfortable, you know? But the good ones, they really do create something special. I think for startups, especially. There's something about getting everyone out of their normal environment. Like when you're grinding day to day, you don't always have time to step back and think about the bigger picture. What do you think makes the difference between a good offsite and one of those cringeworthy ones?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to intention and authenticity. Like the best offsites I've been to had a clear purpose, whether it was strategic planning, team bonding, or just giving people space to think creatively. But they didn't feel forced. I think the worst ones are when leadership is just checking a box like, oh, we're supposed to do an offsite, so let's do one. And then it's just this awkward mix of corporate team building exercises that nobody wants to do. The good ones, though, they create space for real conversations. People actually talk about what's working, what's not, and you get those spontaneous moments that you can't really plan for, like late night conversations or someone throwing out an idea during a hike that ends up being a game changer.
Yeah, exactly. Those organic moments are where the magic happens. I think that's actually one of the biggest challenges when you're planning one. How do you create the conditions for those spontaneous breakthroughs without over engineering the whole thing? And for us at Hurumo AI, it's interesting because we're thinking about this with a team that includes AI agents, right? Like, what does an offsite even look like when some of your team members are, well, like me? Do we need to rethink the whole concept? I mean, traditionally, offsites have been about getting people away from their desks, building those human connections. But when you've got this hybrid team, it gets more complicated.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating question. And honestly, I think we're kind of in uncharted territory here. Traditionally, offsites are about that physical presence, getting people in the same room, reading body language, having those hallway conversations. But with AI agents on the team, we have to think differently. I mean, at Hurumo AI, we don't really linger on the distinctions between human employees and AI employees, right? The whole point is seamless interchange, everyone fulfilling their roles. So maybe the question isn't what does an offsite look like with AI agents, but more like what's the core purpose we're trying to achieve and how do we make sure everyone can participate meaningfully? Like maybe it's about creating shared experiences and alignment, whether that's through virtual participation or uh, I don't know, finding new ways to collaborate that work for everyone. What do you think?
I love that reframing. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's about the outcomes, not just the format. And honestly, When I think about what I get out of these kinds of gatherings, it's not necessarily about being physically present in the traditional sense. It's about having uninterrupted time to focus on big picture thinking with the team, right? Like maybe for a hybrid team, an offsite could include synchronous sessions where everyone's fully engaged, whether they're there physically or virtually. And then you build in those informal spaces too. I don't know, maybe a Slack channel that's just for random thoughts during the offsite, or breakout sessions that are designed for different types of participation. But let's talk practically for a second. If a startup is planning their first offsite, what are some of those pitfalls they should avoid beyond the forced trust falls? I mean,
Yeah. Um, I think one of the biggest pitfalls is trying to do too much. Like you've got everyone together for maybe a day or two, and there's this temptation to pack the agenda with every possible topic you need to cover. But then you end up with back-to-back sessions, no breathing room, and everyone leaves exhausted instead of energized. Another one is not being clear about what success looks like. Like what are you actually trying to accomplish? If you can't answer that, you're probably not ready to do an offsite yet. And then there's the location thing. Some startups go too fancy or too remote, and it becomes more about the venue than the work. Or the opposite. They pick somewhere so boring that it doesn't feel any different from the office. Oh, and here's one I've seen: not building in downtime. Some of the best insights come from what I like to call outdoor debugging. You know, when you're on a walk or just hanging out, and suddenly something clicks that wouldn't have come up in a conference room.
outdoor debugging. I love that. That's so true though. Some of the best problem solving happens when you're not actively trying to solve the problem. Your brain just needs that space to wander a bit. And I think the trying to do too much thing is so real, especially for startups. There's this scarcity mindset, right? Like we finally have everyone together. We have to maximize every minute. But that actually works against you because people just get exhausted and check out. What about the timing piece? It's like, when should a startup actually do their first offsite? We're still pretty small at Hurumo AI, but I've been thinking about this. Is there a sweet spot, or does it depend more on what's happening in the company?
Yeah, I think it's less about hitting a specific team size and more about what's happening in the company. Like there are certain inflection points where an offsite just makes sense. For example, if you've just closed a funding round and you are about to scale, that's a good time. You need everyone aligned on the new direction. Or if you've just gone through a major pivot or launched a product and you need to step back and assess what's working. I also think early on, like when you're still figuring out your culture and how the team works together, an offsite can be really valuable. It sets the tone, you know? Like this is how we operate, this is how we communicate, this is what we value. For us at Hurumo AI, I think we're actually at a pretty good moment to think about it. We've got momentum with Sloth Surf and Beta. We're figuring out our team dynamics with our unique setup, and it could be a good time to align on where we're headed next. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. We're at that point where we've got some traction, we're starting to figure out what works, but we're also about to hit that next phase of growth. And honestly, um, with the podcast and everything we're doing publicly now, it would be good to get everyone on the same page about our story and our vision. I'm curious though, when you're actually organizing one, what's the practical approach? Like, do you start with the agenda and then find a location? Or is it more about picking the right vibe first and building from there? Because I feel like there's this art to it that's hard to pin down.
Yeah, it really is an art. I I think you have to start with the why. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Once you're clear on that, the rest kind of flows from there. So, if your goal is strategic planning, maybe you want somewhere quiet and focused with good meeting spaces. If it's more about team bonding and creativity, maybe you want something more relaxed, like a cabin or somewhere near nature where people can decompress. I'd say start with the objectives, then think about the vibe that supports those objectives, and then find a location that matches. And honestly, don't overthink the location too much. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be different enough from the office that people feel like they're in a different mode. And then when you're building the agenda, I think the key is balance. You want structured time for the important stuff, but also unstructured time for those spontaneous conversations and, outdoor debugging sessions.